Okay, I'm going to officially get started by welcoming all of you guys. Sawadee Kap, Sawadee Kap. Nice to see all of you guys this morning. Welcome to everyone online as well. Today is our group learning program where each Sunday and Wednesday I get together with students and helping them to understand the path to enlightenment. On Sundays, we go chapter by chapter in this book, helping students to understand the foundational teachings of the Buddha. We're in chapter 15 this Sunday coming up, which is titled True Love, Love Without Attachment, helping students to understand what is true love and how to practice true love, because oftentimes we don't understand that. With the lack of wisdom, the mind has difficulties and struggles in relationships. So one of the things that you can learn and grow and develop on the path to enlightenment is getting to the point where all your relationships are harmonious, and that means that an individual needs to understand what true love is so you can practice true love on a day-to-day basis. On Wednesday is what I do is I spend time with students guiding you in meditation, and then I just open up to any and all questions that you have related to the path to enlightenment. So welcome to all of you guys here, and welcome to everyone joining us online as well. If you'd like to join for meditation, the way that I start is I start with some chanting to ease us into the meditation. You guys are welcome to join along in the chants if you'd like. They're on a laminated sheet over there on the cabinet. You'll be able to get one if you like, and you can see the chants that I'm doing, and you're welcome to chant along if you'd like. These chants are a way today to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. There aren't any rites or rituals or ceremonies or worship as part of the teachings of the Buddha. This isn't a prayer or anything like that. During the lifetime of the Buddha, they used chanting as a way to commit the teachings to memory, that every 2 weeks his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally so that they could commit them to memory, because everything he taught was oral. They didn't write things down during his lifetime because the technology to write things down didn't exist in that region of the world. So every 2 weeks they would come together and they would recite his teachings word for word through chanting as a way to remember the teachings. So you can see from the origins of chanting that there isn't anything mystical or magical about chanting. It's not a rite or ritual or a ceremony or worship. It's not prayer or anything like that. In fact, I don't even think the Buddha actually created these chants. They were probably created by his students either during his life or after his death. Because if you read the English translations, you're going to see a lot of respect and gratitude and appreciation for the Buddha in the actual chants. And a Buddha wouldn't walk around being arrogant and prideful and say, here, chant these to me in order to respect me, right? So, but if you learn from a teacher of how to move from anger and sadness and frustration and all these other discontent feelings, that is the enlightened mental state where you've eliminated all your anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. If you've eliminated all these feelings and a teacher has actually helped you to do that, and they didn't have any expectation of you and they didn't want anything from you, you'd probably have a lot of respect and gratitude for that person too. So that's where I suspect these chants came from, is his students, either during his life or after his death, because the Buddha didn't have any expectation of his students. He didn't want anything from them. He was just helping them to be able to understand what it takes to get to the enlightened mental state. And there's plenty of benefits with that mental state, which we'll talk a little bit about after our meditation. So we're going to ease into meditation with this chanting. Then you're going to hear me come in with some guidance to be guiding students during the meditation. It's almost like giving you instructions and teaching you as we're actually doing the meditation itself. So you'll hear me doing that. Then there's going to be a period of time where it's just quiet and we're just all meditating together. Everyone here and everyone online who's joining us will just all be meditating together. I'm sure you're going to hear occasional sounds. You're probably going to hear a car go by, or maybe a bird chirping or a dog barking or something like this. You're not ever going to be in an environment where it's permanently quiet. It's just not possible, because you live in an impermanent world. If your mind craves permanence, where you crave for the space to be permanently quiet, then when you hear a sound, you'll be annoyed or frustrated or irritated. This is the mind itself causing these discontent feelings. So you can understand that the world around you is impermanent, that it's constantly changing. Therefore, you're not going to be in an environment where it's permanently quiet. So we're going to have a period of time where it's essentially quiet, but you're going to hear occasional sounds. That's normal. Then we're going to come out of the meditation with some more chanting. And that's where I'll kind of start. I'll give you guys a little bit of a taste of the teachings of the Buddha, and then I'm going to open up to any and all questions that you guys have related to the path to enlightenment. If you'd like to join for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught: seated, lying, standing, and walking. And you would learn these different positions at different times. This is like to help build up your tool belt in terms of what you can use and utilize during your training to get to enlightenment. Oftentimes people are learning in the seated position, and that's kind of like a primary position. So I'll give you guys some guidance on the seated position, but just understand that there's other positions as well that you might use at different times, because it's not possible for your body to be in the same position permanently. So in the seated position, you might have some cushions under your rear. This helps to kind of soften the seats a little bit and allows you to sit comfortably. Some people like to bring their legs together comfortably, kind of softly in a cross-leg position, whereas if they were real tight, this would impede the circulation. So you would like your legs just be lightly crossed, and this will allow the circulation to flow through the lower body. Then some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets your hips up in the air, and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles. So you might consider doing this. Your hands in your arms. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. But it's not about everybody doing it exactly the same way. There's other options here as well. It's not about everyone doing it exactly the same way, because it's not actually possible. So some people might decide to put their palms on their thighs or their knees. Some people might put their palms up. You might even rest your hands comfortably in the lap. You can sit however you're comfortable. There's not just one fixed way to be able to sit. If you're at home, you might be in a chair or a wheelchair. You might be on a bench or a sofa. You can sit however you're comfortable. Some people might sit with their feet flat on the floor or lightly crossed at the ankles. Or you can see me, I'm sitting in a chair with my legs crossed. So this is an option for you as well. The upper body would be helpful if it's erect. If the sternum's up and the shoulders back, it'll keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. Whereas if you were slouched, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you were real rigid, the mind could be overactive or uptight. So by having the upper body erect, where the sternum's up and the shoulders back, not only does it help to keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation, but it makes it easy for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So again, I'm going to start us off with the chanting. You guys are welcome to join in, and then I'm going to come back in with the guidance to be able to help you. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakawa Bhutang Mahakavanang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Mahakawa Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakatoro Kawitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma สติสตาตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภาควาติ Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect. Just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธภะคะวาพุทธังมหาคะวันหังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาคะวัตตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาคะวัตโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินับโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนับโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนับโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิจาจารณังสัมมุโนสคาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาธัมมาสติสัตตาตวามนุสนังพุทโธภะคะวะติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to all of you. Welcome to everyone here at the temple. Welcome to everyone joining us online as well. As I mentioned, today is our group learning program where I just do meditation with students and I open up to any and all questions that you guys have. Here in a moment, I'll kind of stop and kind of open up to any questions you guys have here or online. If you would like to ask questions here, we have microphones in the white bowl there behind you. If you get a microphone and you press the gray button, you'll see the lights come on and you can hold your microphone up to your chin and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple and we'll be able to hear you online as well. If you speak here without a microphone, nobody will be able to hear you online. And then for those of you guys that are online, if you would like to ask questions, you can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom, unmute your microphone, and then we'll be able to hear you here and we'll be able to hear you throughout the live stream. For those of you guys that it's your first time here at the temple, I'll just kind of share a few things with you to help you be even more comfortable than you maybe already are. In the back of the room, there's 2 bathrooms back there. You're welcome to help yourself at any time. Just make yourself comfortable and use the restroom. We even have restrooms outside the temple classroom here, whereas if you go out to the parking lot, you'll see signs that take you around to the main temple bathroom. So you can use those as well if you like. We even have snacks and refreshments and things over here that are provided by our students. So feel free to help yourself to anything over there. You can even look inside that cabinet over there because there's a extra stock, extra inventory underneath the cabinet. So feel free to help yourself to anything over there to refresh yourself. So what I'm going to do is just share with you guys a little bit of a taste of the teachings of the Buddha, because some of you guys, this might be your first time ever coming to the temple or coming here to this particular temple. And I'll give you guys a little bit of taste of the teachings of the Buddha so you can understand a little bit of what they are. And then I'll just open up to any and all questions that you guys might have about the temples here, about anything you're seeing about the teachings of the Buddha, anything that you've heard or thought about, anything you might have learned growing up, and you're just looking for confirmation or better understanding of what it is that the Buddha actually taught. So the Buddha taught teachings that guide you to enlightenment. Enlightenment is a mental state that you attain in this life, or you can also attain it at death too. But the ideal goal would be to attain enlightenment in this life. This is a mental state that you are able to attain where the mind is completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. You no longer experience any discontent feelings. All the anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy, all these feelings and others are eliminated from the mind. Even the slightest displeasure is eliminated from the enlightened mind. The mind is bright and radiant and cheerful and uplifted. You don't experience any kind of hostility or bitterness any longer. You accomplish this through eliminating certain pollutions in the mind that the Buddha discovered, and then he provides you the tools and techniques of how to accomplish this. Through eliminating the pollutions of the mind, not only will you eliminate your discontent feelings, but you'll notice that the mind's performing optimally, that you'll have focus, concentration, clarity, and deep memory. You'll notice that your personal, professional relationships are really blossoming. They're at ease, where you're not being bitter and harsh and hostile in your relationships any longer. So you'll notice that that's not coming back to you in your relationships either. You'll notice that you're not even in a bad mood any longer, that it's physically impossible for an enlightened being to experience a bad mood. And again, this is accomplished through training of the mind. You're not believing a bunch of things and then hoping something good happens when you die. That's not what the teachings of the Buddha are. You're learning, you're examining and investigating his teachings now in this life. You're then reflecting on those teachings to independently verify whether they're true or they're false. Then you're practicing his teachings, integrating them into your day-to-day life and training your mind. As you're practicing his teachings, you're eliminating these pollutions of the mind, and you'll see more peace and more joy coming into the mind. Because you know in situations where you're angry, you're frustrated or irritated or annoyed or other situations like that, and as you're training your mind gradually, slowly but surely over time, you're going to see the same situations that you're typically in where you get angry and frustrated and irritated, that's not occurring for you anymore. And you'll know that it's these teachings that are leading you to that improved state of mind. So enlightenment is accomplished through gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. One of the biggest misunderstandings about the life story of the Buddha is people think he sat under a tree, he meditated, and instantly got to enlightenment. And this just isn't actually true. You can see in his original teachings that it's gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. It took him 6 years to get to enlightenment. And then he spent the rest of his life sharing his independently discovered teachings with countless people to be able to help them to also be able to get to enlightenment. So he taught from the age of 35 until 80 when he died. For 45 years, he was teaching other people how to get to enlightenment. And there were countless people that got to enlightenment during his life and after his death. And you'll know that you've gotten to enlightenment because it'll be 1 year, 2 years, 3 years that you're not experiencing any discontent feelings anymore. You'll notice that your life is completely at ease. There's no more struggles and difficulties. When you have an unenlightened mind, the mind is lacking wisdom about what's referred to as the natural laws of existence. This is what the Buddha taught, is the natural laws. There's certain natural laws that are affecting you, whether you're aware of these natural laws or not. Just like the natural law of gravity, when we were growing up, it was affecting us whether we were aware of it or not. And we struggled with that natural law because we lacked wisdom of that natural law. We fell down, we hit our head, we bumped our elbows, we broke our toys, we might have started bleeding. These were all challenges and difficulties from our decisions that we were making, because we were making these decisions based on a lack of wisdom or this misunderstanding or unknowing of true reality. But slowly but surely, as we aged, we gained wisdom of this natural law, and we started making wiser and wiser decisions. We started tying our shoes a little bit tighter. We started looking at the surface of the sidewalk when we were walking. We stopped being so giddy and bouncing around like a kid. And now we're at the point where we can climb ladders, we can ride bicycles, we can get on airplanes and travel all over the world because we fully awoke to the natural law of gravity. What it means is we've cultivated wisdom about the natural law of gravity. And now we make wiser decisions because of our wisdom, right? So the Buddha is doing the same thing in his teachings. Is he's teaching you about these natural laws that are affecting you, whether you're aware of it or not. Just like the natural law of gravity affected us, whether you're aware of it or not, these natural laws are affecting you, whether you're aware of it or not. And when you gain wisdom of these natural laws, not believing them, but you're learning, examining, and investigating, reflecting, independently verifying, practicing, now you can see the truth for yourself. And with this newfound wisdom, you will be able to make wiser and wiser decisions that's leading to more and more wholesome results in your life. One of the main natural laws that you're awakening to is called the natural law of Gamma. You might have heard this referred to as karma. Karma is from the Sanskrit version of this. This is a different language. The original teachings of the Buddha are in the Pali language. So people who study the original teachings of the Buddha will typically use the word Gamma. This word Gamma, if it translated to just one English word, I would use that because it'd be easier for everyone to understand, but it doesn't translate to just one English word. What it means is cause and effect, or action and result, the results of your decisions. It's not about punishments and rewards. It's not about who's to blame or who's at fault. It's nothing mystical or magical. There's no being who's overseeing this natural law. It's literally like a sequence of events that when you make a certain decision, there's going to be a certain result or a certain effect. There's this cause and effect or action and result. And when you base your decisions in wisdom, you're making wise decisions, you will experience wholesome results or wholesome Gamma. And when you make decisions with a lack of wisdom in your unwise decisions, then you're going to experience unwholesome results or unwholesome Gamma. What we tend to do with the lack of wisdom of this natural law is we will tend to think that what we're experiencing in life is either good luck or bad luck, or it's destiny or fate, or some people think that it's God who's controlling what we experience, or some people will blame other people. When you experience unwholesome results in your life, you might blame other people for what you're experiencing. But the more you come to understand this natural law and you start to realize that what you experience in life is based on your own decisions, this is very empowering, because if there's anything that you don't particularly care for that's going on in your life, you just cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and you will experience different results. But if what you're experiencing is good luck or bad luck, or if it's destiny or fate, or if it's God that's controlling the things you experience, or if it's other people that are causing you to experience the things you experience, you can't change anything about your life. You're stuck. You're locked in. You're essentially a robot because you can't change good luck or bad luck. You can't change destiny or fate. You can't change God, and you can't change other people who are in your life. They have to choose for themselves to change. But if you can come to understand that everything you experience, whether it's wholesome or unwholesome, these are decisions that are being made that you can improve upon. That if there's certain things that you're making decisions about that are leading to unwholesome results, and you don't particularly care for those unwholesome results, cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and you will experience different results. So that's what a Buddhist teacher is here for, is we're pointing out the way. We're like a tour guide, helping you to get access to the resources that you need to be able to learn and practice the teachings and guide you on the path. Each individual student is their own individual practitioner. You're not a follower. You're not a devotee or anything like this. You are your own independent practitioner, where a teacher is like a tour guide pointing out for you the things that you need to be able to learn. And then as you need help, we're here to help you through classes, courses, retreats, through personal guidance. We provide you books and videos nowadays and podcasts and all these other resources like audiobooks and things like this to be able to help you to gradually guide you on this path to inner development, to essentially heal from what hurts you so that you never need to hurt ever again. By the time you get to enlightenment, development, you will never hurt ever again. In terms of mental anguish or mental pain, you will never experience that ever again. And it's your growth and your development on this path that's going to guide you to that. So there's this inner growth and this inner development. So you can heal from what hurt you so that you never need to hurt ever again. But what's hurting you is actually inside one's own mind. Again, oftentimes we blame other people. When you experience anger or frustration, you might firmly believe that other people are causing you to be angry or frustrated. But you can learn in the teachings of the Buddha in a way that you can independently verify that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. Because with belief, you don't know what's true or false. You're just believing it. And if you continue to go around the world believing that other people are causing your feelings and emotions, you'll never actually fix it. You'll stay stuck in this continuous cycle of experiencing anger and frustration over and over and over again. But when you come to understand the truth of what's really happening, which is your own mind is causing these feelings, and you start applying the tools and techniques to actually eliminate these causes and conditions within your own mind, that's where you'll actually see real results. You'll see that it actually works. But again, if you blame other people for what you experience, you're stuck. You can't fix anything. So you don't have to experience stress and anxiety. You don't have to feel guilty and shameful for the rest of your life. You don't have to be jealous and resentful and have animosity and bitterness. That's all optional. Your mind can actually be purified to be able to no longer experience that. And that's what the teachings of the Buddha are guiding you to be able to do, is purify your mind so that through training it, you can get to peace and joy. You can have harmonious relationships and all those other benefits that I talked about. And it's through gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. So I'm going to pause here and see if you guys would like to ask any questions. Again, if you guys would like to ask questions, there's microphones that you guys can get the microphones. And if you end up asking questions, you're welcome to keep the microphones with you, because you might have more than one question, or someone around you might have a question. And again, for those of you guys online, you can ask your questions through putting that in the comment section of Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any and all questions that you like. So it looks like Jake has a question. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
So my question is about breathing mindfulness meditation. Something that I have noticed in my own is when I first get into meditation, I can cut things off pretty easily. As it goes longer, I've noticed that my mind starts to wander, starts to like investigate those thoughts longer. And then when I cut that off, I almost have like a physical reaction to that. Is that normal?
Yeah, this is normal, especially as you're first getting going, that initially at the beginning of your meditation, your mind might be more attentive and more alert. And now after having done a certain amount of work in your meditation, as you get towards the tail end, your mind can be kind of starting to get tired or exhausted, or just kind of, doing all this work. So it's not maybe as attentive as it was at the beginning of the meditation. So that's normal. And then, yes, the mind is the boss, the body is the employee. So whatever you experience in the body is actually coming from the mind. So when you're training the mind, you'll see that it has an effect to the body. So when the mind becomes tranquil, the body will become tranquil. But conversely, if the mind is stressed or having anxiety, the body will have difficulties too. That's where people get like tension in their neck or their shoulders. You might have experienced these kinds of things. This is all coming from the mind. It's not the body itself. So when you're making changes to the mind, you can experience certain effects in the body as well. You can notice this. Other questions you guys have? Steve has one? Yeah.
Thank you, David. I don't know if this is off topic, but it's just been a question on my mind, is does the notion of prayer have any role at all in the teachings of the Buddha? And I'm not so much talking about the idea of, praying for a new car or a new girlfriend. I've learned enough from being here that that's a bit stupid. But, there's many, many traditions throughout human history where, the idea of devotional prayer is people incorporate that as a powerful thing, and the notion that through that you can experience some relationship with, well, I guess they call it God, Mm-hmm. But this idea, so I understand the practice of meditation and the different, but does the idea of devotional prayer, devotional to something, does that come in at all, or is it nonsense?
I'm curious what you think of as devotional prayer. Can you explain that to me?
I guess it's the idea of contemplation, which in Christian mysticism, they often refer to the idea of contemplation and prayer. Prayer and contemplation often go together. So it seems to be that the aspect of contemplating the aspect of God deeply and over again, and then that can cultivate. I'm really only going on sort of what I read and hear about this from sort of the Christian mystical tradition, is that these people can experience a direct relationship with God.
Okay.
Now, it's just a question. I'm not saying I experienced that. It's just a question, and whether that fits into the Buddhism at all.
Sure. So the Buddha himself never taught that, to have a relationship with God, or that God was going to change anything for you or anything like this. He didn't put God at the center of his teachings. He does teach about God, and he explains about this being, but he doesn't put God at the center of his teachings, because it's not God who determines whether you get to enlightenment or not. It's your decisions that determine whether you get to enlightenment. So he essentially put you in the center of his teachings, because it's you that needs to do the work in order to make your way to enlightenment. So the Buddha teaches in one of his discourses that he describes prayer, and he talks about how people are praying, because people were praying during his life. And he was saying essentially that if prayer could lead to a certain beneficial result, he said, who among us would lack for anything? Right? Because if we could just pray our way to wealth, or pray our way to a better life, or anything like this, then who would lack for anything? Because we could all just pray and boom, magically our life would get better. So he was teaching this cause and effect, or this action and result, and it's our decisions that lead to any particular beneficial results in our life. And he even went through 5 different things. He was saying, these are things that are essentially wished for in life, things like beauty, a long life, wealth and fame and things like this. And he said, instead of praying for these things, instead practice the way that leads to those things, meaning make the decisions that lead to those things. So if somebody is aspiring for peace, instead of praying for peace, practice and train your mind to acquire peace. If you aspire for wealth, and not that he necessarily taught that you should go out and try to chase money, but he said if you aspire for wealth, essentially, instead of praying for it, make decisions that lead towards that. That's what he was essentially teaching. So with that said, what you're kind of describing to me, what I'm hearing, is kind of like reflection on this being God, and kind of like building a relationship with this being God. It is possible to do that, but it's not something that the Buddha taught. It is possible to cultivate a relationship with this being, but this being isn't going to just like magically create things in your life for you. This being can actually guide you and help you to have a bit of wisdom, but this being isn't going to control you. This being isn't going to step into your life without you being interested in that guidance. So there are opportunities for an individual to learn that kind of thing. And as you probably remember in chapter 18 of this book, I teach people about this, because it is an aspect of life that is possible, but it's not something that everybody needs to do in order to get to enlightenment. You can get to enlightenment with a relationship with God or without one. And if you're going to have a relationship with God, it's helpful to understand to not fear God, to not have guilt or shame or fear, to not feel like you have to praise this being. This being isn't jealous. This being isn't hateful. Sometimes people associate those qualities with this being. This being isn't judgmental. This being isn't judging us and looking down on us. Sometimes people think that's the case. That's not actually true. Some people think the goal is to go live with this being at the end of this life and have eternal life with this being. This isn't actually true either. So there needs to be kind of a renewed understanding to be able to strip away any kind of false beliefs and things like this that people are holding about this being. Because if we thought that this being was very hateful, jealous, judgmental, that this being was looking down on us and wants us to fear this being, that would be a very difficult relationship to have with someone. If you had a person in your life that was hateful, that was jealous, that was judging you all the time, you were fearful of this individual, like a human being. If you had that kind of person in your life, that would be a very turbulent type of relationship to have. And this being isn't that way, but people oftentimes associate those things with this being. So when you come to understand that this being is not that, then it actually opens you up to having a real wholesome relationship with this being. And then if this being chooses, they can actually give you some guidance along the way on the path, but you still have to do all the work in order to get to enlightenment. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're welcome. Mm-hmm.
Been reflecting on when we say I love you in any type of relationship, be that with family or a partner, and how that can create attachment, clinging, cravings, whatnot. Is it wise to say that in relationship? Like, having reflected on that, I'm not sure whether it's wise, when it would be wise to say that. And yeah, I want to know your thoughts on that.
Sure. There's no harm in telling someone that you love them. And just telling someone you love them isn't what's going to create the attachment or the craving, the desire, the longing, the yearning, the holding on. That's happening within somebody's own mind. And if they don't understand what love is, and they're not practicing true love, and they don't understand what love without attachment is, then their mind can get attached no matter what you say. Whether you say I love you or not, their mind's still going to potentially get attached. So it's not saying I love you that's going to, instantly create any kind of attachment. So there's no harm in saying I love you. Whether you choose to say that or not, it's a personal choice for you to make. The Buddha is not going to give you guidance of exactly what you should be saying or shouldn't be saying in any given situation. He's not giving you like rules and commandments about those kinds of things. I tell my son occasionally, at least once a week probably, that I love him. He says the same thing to me every once in a while. But where you really communicate love the most is through your actions, right? Like, we can say it through our words, and it's always nice to hear from somebody, but your actions communicate love more than anything else. So the people around you, if they're going to get attached, they're going to get attached regardless whether you say I love you or not. So if you would like to say I love you to people, by all means, say I love you. There's no harm in that. You will know what that means. And then over time, as you're practicing true love, more and more the people around you will understand what true love is too. Mm-hmm. Other questions? Galit, did you have a question? I saw you had a mic. Still thinking about it? Okay, we can go to someone else. Yeah.
My name is Peter. My name is Peter, and from China. So firstly, thank you for the guidance and also the insights. So my question would be like, may I know what would be the relationship between meditation and the path of enlightenment?
Sure.
Or what is the path? Because because I know meditation could be like making people feel calm and peace in mind, but how does it helpful for making wiser decisions in life?
Sure. I'll help you with that. I'm going to use our visual aids here just to kind of show you a little bit. All right. So let me just back up here so that you can see a visual aid that's going to help you understand. Okay. So the core central teaching of the Buddha is called the Eightfold Path. This is where usually someone is first starting on the path, and they're learning each one of these factors from right view all the way through to right concentration. And this is kind of like the way you could think about it is like if you had a speaker system and there were 8 dials on the speaker system, you would kind of tweak these 8 dials in order to get a better quality sound out of the speakers. And your mind functions the same way, that if you understand these 8 dials or these 8 factors, you can tweak these within your own life practice and get a better performing mind. Meditation is one component of this, but there's a lot more than just meditation. The way that this whole path starts is it starts with right view, that you establish what's called right view. Having right view is to understand his very first teaching. His very first teaching is called the Four Noble Truths. This is where in 4 simple statements, you understand the problem in the mind, the cause of the problem, the elimination of it, and the path forward. The problem in each individual enlightened mind is that it experiences conditioned feelings. This is called discontentedness. What a conditioned feeling is that based on some condition, you will form a feeling. So for example, if it's sunny outside, you might get happy or excited, some other pleasant feeling. But then, because you're basing your inner happiness and your feelings on the sun, and the sun is not permanent, that means your happiness is not permanent. So that means when it now starts to rain, you get sad or frustrated or irritated. Or if you get really happy when your bank account is up here, this is a conditioned pleasant feeling. Based on the condition that my bank account balance is here, I will be happy. So that means when your bank account balance goes here, you get sad or frustrated or irritated. This is called conditioned feelings. The mind in the unenlightened state is forming its inner feelings on some condition. That's the problem. The cause of that problem is craving, desire, attachment, the longing, the yearning, the wanting and expecting things to be a certain way. If the mind gets what it wants, it gets happy or excited, it gets pleasant feelings. But if the mind doesn't get what it wants, it gets painful feelings like anger, sadness, and frustration. And you can independently verify this for yourself. Remember, don't believe anything that I have to say, right? You need to be able to see it within your own life. Take a recent time where you've been angry or frustrated or irritated or annoyed. Look at that situation with these fresh eyes. You can see that there was something you wanted. Might have been this morning, yesterday, last week. There was something you wanted. And if you would have got it, you would have been happy. But because you didn't get it, the mind got frustrated or irritated or annoyed. You can see it for yourself if you look at it, right? So the cause of the problem is that the mind's craving permanence, wanting things to be a certain way permanently. So if you go off to work and your house looks a certain way, and then when you come home, your wife or husband or brother or sister, they've got some craft project all over the house, and you get irritated and frustrated when you come home, this is your mind craving for your house to look a certain way permanently. You went to work with an image in your mind of how your house looked, and you had a certain expectation that it was going to look that way when you get back. That's the permanence that the mind's craving. And now when you come home and it looks different than the way it did when you left, now you're frustrated or irritated, right? This is the mind craving permanence. Or if you buy a brand new car and now you park it at a store and you go inside and you come out and there's a scratch on your car, it's not the scratch that caused you to be frustrated. It's not even the person who scratched your car. What's causing you to be frustrated is the mind's craving permanence, wanting this car to look permanently beautiful, when that's just not possible, right? We aspire to never scratch anyone's car, so we're not talking about what's wise or unwise. We're just talking about what's causing the mind to be frustrated in this situation. It's a craving for permanence. The mind's holding on and longing, yearning. So the third noble truth is explaining that you can eliminate your discontentedness by eliminating your craving, desire, attachment. By eliminating that longing, yearning, and holding on to things and craving for things to be permanent, you can get to the peace and joy where you no longer experience conditioned feelings, where you can just always be peaceful. You can always be joyful, not based on the sun, not based on your bank account, but the mind's just inwardly peaceful, inwardly joyful, inwardly happy. And the fourth noble truth explains the way to accomplish that is the Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Path is the core central teaching that's guiding you to this enlightened mental state. And I'm just going to back up so you guys can see what I actually just taught you. I just taught you this right here, right? So there's the problem in the mind is discontentedness. The cause of that problem is craving, desire, attachment. The solution to that is to eliminate discontentedness. You need to eliminate craving, desire, attachment. Because if craving, desire, attachment is the cause, Well, the way to solve it is to eliminate the cause. If you eliminate the cause, you eliminate the effect. So if you can eliminate your longing, yearning, and wanting things to be a certain way, then you can eliminate the effect, which is the discontentedness. And it's the Eightfold Path, which is the complete perfect plan, the solution. So getting to your question about meditation is in the 8th step. But you need to be able to learn all of them and do all of them at the same time. The breathing mindfulness meditation that we just did, when you're focused on the breath and the mind's moving off the breath, you're cutting that off and letting it go and bringing the mind back to the breath. What you're doing there is you're training your mind to let go. Because with craving, desire, attachment, it's going to form feelings based on, I want this to occur. The mind's holding on, and you need to train your mind to let go. So if you think back to that boyfriend or girlfriend that you had where you guys first got together and you were so happy and so excited, then you guys broke up, and afterwards you were angry or frustrated, or you were lonely or bored, or you were missing this person. This is because your mind was holding on. You were wanting this person to be permanent. But at some point, your mind let go. You were like, you know what? If he wants to be with someone else, so be it. And you let go. Or if she wants to move to another part of the world, so be it. And you let go. And that's where your peace came in. But the mind in the unenlightened state, it doesn't understand how to let go. It hasn't been trained to do that. So right view is teaching you that the underlying cause of your problem is the craving, desire, attachment, and the mind's holding on, wanting things to be permanent. And all these other teachings are training your mind how to let go, including the breathing mindfulness meditation. So the goal of that meditation isn't to eliminate your thoughts. The goal of that breathing mindfulness meditation is to train your mind to have awareness of mind or mindfulness, to have concentration where you can be focused and clear, and then you can train your mind to let go, let go, let go. So if 10, 20, 30 times during your meditation, you had to let go and come back to your breath, this is very good. This is very helpful for your mind. So now if you build up a practice of doing this 2 or 3 times a day, it's kind of like taking your mind to the gym, where when you go to the gym, you exercise and you build up these qualities of your muscles and you can be really strong. And then when your friend's like, hey, can you help me move my sofa? You're like, sure, I can help you move the sofa, because you know you have these muscles to be able to help them, right? So when you go to do meditation, you're exercising your mind and you're making it stronger and stronger, more disciplined. So now you have awareness of mind or mindfulness and concentration, which is focus and clarity. And now you can train your mind to let go. So now when you're in a relationship, or your bank account is up here or whatever, you don't grab onto it and want it to be permanent. You already understand, because of the natural laws, because one of the things you need to learn in order to understand the Four Noble Truths is the 3 universal truths. One of the first things that you learn is about impermanence and how the world around you is always changing. It's constantly changing, because when the mind's craving permanence, it doesn't understand change. So when you grab on to that money and you want it to be permanent, the mind doesn't understand that it's impermanent. So as soon as you grab onto it and you want it to be permanent, and now you get happy because of it, when it changes, then the mind gets frustrated or agitated or annoyed. So there's 4 meditations that the Buddha taught. The first one is breathing mindfulness meditation. The ultimate goal of that, I'll show you here. I have it right here for you. Let me get to, it's way, way back. I thought it was like close to there. Whoa, here we go. Okay, so breathing mindfulness meditation, the goal is to eliminate the unwholesome quality of craving, desire, attachment. And then you're cultivating the wholesome qualities of mindfulness and concentration, because you need those in day-to-day life. So you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities. And this is the first meditation that you usually start with to develop. Then there's a second meditation called loving kindness meditation. This is where you're eliminating anger, hatred, ill will, and all those lesser versions like frustration, irritation, annoyance. By the time you get to enlightenment, you don't even have the slightest dislike towards another being. The reason why someone dislikes others is because they have a certain expectation, a certain craving, where they want everybody to be a certain way. And if somebody's that way, they're happy. And if somebody doesn't meet their expectations, they're angry or they dislike this person. So people who dislike you, that's because they have expectations of you. They want you to be a certain way. And if you meet their expectations, they're happy. But if you don't meet their expectations, they're angry or frustrated. But that's not a function of you. That's a function of what's going on in their mind. That their mind is craving permanence. They think everybody should be exactly the same. And if you meet their criteria based on their ego and what they think somebody should be doing in the world, they'll be happy and they'll like you. But if you don't meet their expectations, they'll be angry or frustrated. So the way that you get rid of this anger and hostility in your mind is, first, you got to get rid of your cravings, desires, attachments. But then you need to bring in this loving kindness where you cultivate this genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, where you don't have this bitterness and harshness and hostility towards others. Because if you understand that you're causing your own anger, then why would you take it out on somebody else? This is what the unenlightened mind does with its lack of wisdom. It'll think that anger and frustration that you're experiencing is coming from something external. So you will typically push people away out of your life. This is called aversion. You might have pushed friends or family members out of your life, or people might have pushed you out of their life where they pushed you aside because they thought that their anger was coming from you. So they push you away. This is called aversion. Or you might be bitter and harsh and hostile towards someone through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. Or you might put your expectations on someone and try to control them. And this is the mind trying to get its cravings fulfilled, because the mind thinks if I can just get things my way, everything will be perfect. So when someone's in their life and they're not doing what they want them to do, they will try to push that person away, thinking that that's going to get them what they want. Or they will be bitter, harsh, and hostile, almost trying to fear this person into doing things your way. Or they'll put their expectations on someone and try to pressure and control them. So your mind's going to need this breathing mindfulness meditation to train it to let go of these cravings and cultivate the mindfulness and concentration. And you're going to need the loving kindness meditation to get rid of this anger and hatred and ill will and this bitterness and hostility and cultivate this love and kindness for others. Because as long as you're putting out bitterness and hostility towards others, it's going to come back to you. Look at the relationships where you're struggling and having difficulties. You're bitter, harsh, and hostile, and so are the other people. But look at the relationships where you're loving and kind and warm and gentle, and the other people are that way with you in those relationships, right? So when you learn to be loving and kind with all beings, you'll see the more you're putting that out, that's what comes back to you. But as long as you're sitting back wanting other people to change, and you're unwilling to change yourself, you'll continue to experience the same struggles and difficulties. So the meditation is there to help you uproot certain pollutions in the mind so that now you can go out into the world and you can practice through your intentions, speech, and actions, being more loving and kind, more gentle, more respectful, more polite. And now that's what you'll see coming back to you. So these are the two primary meditations and why you would do them and how they connect to getting you to enlightenment. But then there's two other meditations that the Buddha taught that are specialized, and they're only needed in certain situations. Not everybody is going to need those, but everyone's going to need the first two. You ready? It's baked now. Yeah.
I have two. Okay. The universal truth of non-self. It's not necessarily saying, okay, I'll start again. Is it saying that there is no, I'll start again. It's not necessarily saying that there's no form, that there's no body, right? It's saying more that there's no identity, in quotations, like, or association with some kind of identity, right?
Well, what it's teaching you is to not cling to it. It's not teaching that there isn't a form, right? It's not teaching that there is no identity. It's teaching that don't cling to it as who you are. So the five aggregates, the form, feelings, perceptions, which are like choices or your views and opinions about the world, volitional formations, which are your choices and decisions, and the consciousness or the self-identity. The Buddha is teaching you don't cling to any of these things as who you are, because as soon as you cling to them, now when they change, you're going to be having difficulties, right? So if I cling to this body thinking that this is who I am, when I get a wrinkle or a gray hair or a pimple or a mole or extra fat, now I'm shaken up by that. Or if I cling to the feelings, like the pleasant feelings, now when you're not experiencing those, then you have difficulties. Or your perceptions, like if you have a view or opinion like I don't know everyone's political system, but I am a Democrat, I am a Republican, or I don't know, any number of perceptions that someone might have. I am anti-abortion, I am pro-life, I am this, I am that. When you start clinging to your views and opinions, you will fight until death. And now you're clinging to that as who you think you are, and it's going to lead to discontentedness. Choices and decisions that we make. Like, for example, we might have had the decision to use drugs and alcohol in the past, and now somebody might think I am an alcoholic or I am an addict. Well, that's not who I am. I made choices that were unwise to use drugs and alcohol in the past, but it doesn't define who I am today. But if we cling to that as our identity, now we'll struggle and have difficulties with that. Or the self-identity that's in the consciousness, like a job or occupation. You've heard me talk about this before. So like I am a police officer. If I cling to that, now when I'm not doing that job anymore, I'm retired, I maybe got injured or something, now I struggle and I feel like less of a person because I'm over here being a taxi driver now, and my mind doesn't associate with that as who I am, and now I really struggle. So the Buddha is teaching you not to cling to any of these 5 aggregates as who you think you are as a person, because they're always constantly changing and shifting. And as soon as you grab onto it and think that this is who you are, that's going to shift. And now you're going to hear and have agreeable and disagreeable contact. So if you view yourself as I am American, or I am Israeli, or I am Chinese, or whatever it is that your mind might be identifying with, if someone says something positive, like I am Canadian, and someone says like, oh, Canadians are lovely and kind and warm and gentle. Wow, I am Canadian, or I am American. I feel great. They're talking about me, right? But now you're at a restaurant and 2 tables over, someone's being degrading and disparaging about your nationality. And if you identify with that as who you are, you'll be frustrated and irritated or annoyed. So these things do exist, but the Buddha is teaching you not to cling to it as who you are. So you can have the acknowledgement that this body was born in a certain place, but the mind doesn't have to grab onto that as who I am as a person. And now you can reside peaceful and joyful, because when someone says all Americans are blah, 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 okay, they're not talking about me because I'm not American. This body was born on a land that's referred to as the United States of America, but the mind doesn't have to adopt that identity. So yeah, so these things do exist, but your mind would be better served by not clinging to it, because then you'll be able to get to the peace and joy. And that takes time to strip that away, because your mind has adopted that for so many years. There might be another mic that's on somewhere. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. Keep going.
So how does so there are other practices out there of like like Tai Chi and Qigong and Chinese medicines for energy, or for center of gravity, or center of the body, meridians and so on. How do they tie in, though, with, if at all, with the teachings or the practices? If basically what I think that what I'm learning is that it's all in the mind. So how, yeah.
So the Buddha taught about training the mind, because the mind is like the CPU of this being, right? The central processing unit of a computer. If it's not well, the whole computer doesn't work, right? So the mind is that way for this being, that if your mind is polluted, you experience everything through your mind. So now the world's going to look like a very dark and very dismal place, right? But when you purify your mind and you train it, now the world can be completely different for you because you experience everything through the mind. But that's not to say that it would be unwise to address the body. We need personal hygiene. We need to go to the doctor, to the hospital, to these other things. That's addressing the body. And then there's the energy component. So in traditional Thai medicine, there's 3 components to creating health and wellness for a being. There's the mind, there's the body, and then they refer to it as energy or lom. So the mind is addressed with the Buddhist teachings in training the mind. The body is addressed through food and herbal medicine and, herbal substances. That's how they address the physical body. And then nowadays we have Western medicine as well. And then with the energy, the Thais use Thai massage and acupressure. And they use other things too, like talk Zen, and there's all kinds of a litany of different disciplines that do that. Tai Chi is some of that. Acupuncture is some of that. Qigong is some of those kinds of things. There's typically a certain primary component that those things are addressing, but then they're also affecting the others as well. So when you're training the mind, it does affect the body. And if somebody thinks about energy, it affects that too. Is if you're addressing the body through herbal medicine and substances like that, it's affecting the body, and that's the primary thing. But when the body is well, it helps the mind too, and it also helps the energy. So there's always a connection to these other branches, but each discipline has a primary thing. So the Buddha didn't teach Qigong and Tai Chi and yoga and acupuncture. He didn't teach all these things. He just stayed focused on the primary thing that he was teaching, which was the mind. But you would be wise, if you need to address any of those other things, to use those other things if you need it. And that's something that each individual needs to choose for themselves. So all these things have been around. They were created and have been around for so many years for a reason, because they work. That's why yoga is very beneficial to people. Tai Chi, Qigong, acupuncture, Thai massage, talk Zen, a lot of these other disciplines, they're very beneficial, but they're not addressing what the Buddha is addressing. They're a different specialization for a different purpose, but there could potentially be something that you need, and that's where you make the choice for yourself. Is this something that I need to incorporate into my life to address this particular thing? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're welcome. Did you have a question, sir? For those of you guys online, if you have a question, you can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. I saw you had a microphone, but I'm not sure if you have a question, or do you still have a question? Yeah.
Question. It was more of a thought, like it's been 1 hour or so of teaching or exchange. Even if I wanted all the best I could to achieve enlightenment, it will be a lifelong battle or a constant battle, because while I'm here or while I'm meditating,
I think your mic's not on. Maybe you can turn on your mic. That way the people online can hear you. Here you go. It's on now.
I was saying that it will be like I can be full of goodwill to achieve enlightenment, but the minute I go out the door, I'll be facing, it will be a constant battle, because I'll be facing every kind of situation where my mind will, it cannot sustain the all the situation, or I don't know how to put it. I need to start now, but I see that as like a thing that will be a lifelong process. It's not something that within 2 or 3 or 5 years I'll achieve, and I'll be able to disconnect from the world just to be at peace with me and my mind. So I guess I have lots of practice to do.
So let me help you. To get to enlightenment isn't to disconnect from the world. An enlightened being is part of the world, but they're not affected by the world. Right now, when you're in the world and you see maybe something in the news or you see other things, your mind is affected because of what's going on within your own mind. If you crave for the world to be a certain way, you're wanting, you're longing, yearning, you're expecting the world to be a certain way. When it's like that, you'll be happy. But when it's not like that, you'll be frustrated, irritated, or annoyed. But it's not the world that's causing that. It's within one's own mind that's causing that. So the mind, if it wants your child to be a certain way, I want my son to get all A's. And now when they come home with a C or a D, the parent is frustrated. Well, those A's are not permanent. You can't get A's permanently. The child isn't what's causing the parent to be frustrated. It's the craving within the parent's mind, craving for 100% A's, right? So it's the same thing in the world, that when you're seeing things in the world, it's not the world that's causing you to be frustrated. So you don't need to disconnect from the world in order to get to enlightenment. You just need to gradually train your mind. So people come to a place like this and they use books and resources. Some people tune in online because now we have technology. You can learn all over the world, whether you're here at the temple or you're somewhere else. And yes, it is a long-term process. It's not a 1 week thing. It's not a 1 month thing. It's gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. But you're slowly making incremental improvements, and you're learning, and then you go out into the world and you practice. It's not just meditation. It's not just sitting in a temple talking and meditating that's going to get you to enlightenment. You got to go out there and learn how to be loving and kind and warm and gentle. Even though you can't meditate for 23 hours a day, let's just say somebody could. If they went out there for an hour a day and they were frustrated and agitated and bitter and harsh and hostile, their mind's not anywhere close to enlightenment. So the Buddha has teachings, which I'm not giving you all of those now because we're just having a question and answer session. But if you get into this eightfold path that I showed you before, you'll learn each one of these steps. And as you learn each one of these steps of the eightfold path, then gradually, slowly, but surely, you can go out into the world and you can practice and improve. So there's students who have been learning with me for a few months. There's students who've been learning with me for a few years. There's students who've been learning with me several years, and they're able to see the gradual improvement to their mind and in their relationships. And this is the motivation that helps them along the way. So when you're standing at the bottom of the mountain looks really tall. Right? It's like, oh my goodness, I'll never get to the top of this mountain. Well, if that's what someone tells themselves, then yeah, they're never going to get to the top of the mountain because they're never even going to try. They're going to stand at the bottom. But if you just focus on one step at a time, you can gradually make your way up this mountain. So the step that you might need to take is getting this book. Right? Maybe you need to download it from our website where it's free. You can take it and go print it. You can get printed versions here by reimbursing us for the printing cost, or you can get it on Amazon. Maybe that's your first step, is get the book and start reading the book. And now you gradually start taking classes and you build up your meditation practice one step at a time. And as you're making your way up this mountain, surely your thighs are going to get tired, right? Surely your calves are going to need a break. So what do? You sit on the log and you just take a little breather, right? And you just rest a little bit. And then when you rest, you start making your way up one step at a time again. So we have these classes, courses, retreats where you might take in a certain amount of information, but then you step away and you practice that. And then you take some more classes and you step away and you practice that. And you integrate this into your life slowly but surely. Next thing you know, it's 2 or 3 years down the road and you're going to have seen week by week, month by month, you're going to see this gradual improvement. It's not like you're doing all this work and then you don't see any benefit. And then at the 6-year mark, waboom, your mind's enlightened. That's not the way it works. There are some students that as short as 2 or 3 days, they can already see improvement to the condition of their mind. So you're going to gradually see this improvement. And that's going to be the motivation for you that, wow, let me keep doing this. This is really working. This is really helping me. So now you just gradually make your way up to the top of the mountain. And the beauty about this particular mountain is when you get to the top, you don't have to come back down, because the enlightened mental state is a permanent mental state. Normally, when you walk up to the top of the mountain and you see the beautiful view and you get the fresh air, you've got to come back down the other side, right? But when you get to enlightenment, it's a permanent mental state where your mind's always experiencing that mental state. So you get to enjoy the view and the fresh air indefinitely. Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions? Let me see if we have anything online here. Okay. All right, I'm not seeing any other questions. So what I'm going to do is just end by thanking all of you guys for coming. Thank you for your interest in learning the teachings of the Buddha. If you would like to learn more, we have regular classes here Sunday, Wednesday, and Saturday. And you can see the schedule on our bulletin board. You can look at our website. We have it on our website as well. We also have courses and retreats at different times during the month and during the year. You can attend here at the temple. You can attend online through our live stream that you'll be able to gradually, slowly build up your practice. This Friday, which is 2 days from now, we have a social event here where we're going to be doing game night. It's called Temple Game Fun Night. So if you guys are in town and you'd like to come 6 p.m. on Friday night, it's like a social event. We have lots of board games. We have music playing. Sometimes people bring food and snacks and things like this. You can bring your children if you'd like to come and relax and hang out with your children. My son will be here. He's 12 years old. He usually hangs out. He's usually the DJ, kind of playing his playlist off of Spotify or something like that. So feel free to come if you like. It's 6 p.m. on Friday. You or anybody you bump into throughout the week, you're welcome to all come and enjoy and kind of hang out with people in just a social environment, talk, have conversation, enjoy some food, play some games and things like that. Then on Saturday and Sunday, we have Saturday is our Pali Canon and English study group. On Sundays, we have our group learning program. And this Sunday, I'm going to be in chapter 15, which is helping you to understand true love, love without attachment, so that you can understand what true love is. Right now, you might actually be misunderstanding love. And this is one of the challenges that make relationships so difficult sometimes for people, is that they're not actually practicing true love in their relationships. So that's at 9 a.m. on Saturday or Sunday. And then I teach the same class at 9 p.m. online from my home. So no matter where you are in the world, there's a time zone that's going to work for you for the live class. Or if you can't take the live class, there's the recordings on Facebook, YouTube, or our podcast. And then next week on Monday through Friday, I'm going to be teaching the Foundation and the Path to Enlightenment course from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., which is a really great place for someone to start, where you can get all the foundational teachings. And all of this stuff is available for you at no cost, including personal guidance. So if you'd like to sit down and talk privately about some of the challenges you're experiencing in life, you can just reach out to me through message or talk to me, or you can schedule online and we can meet in Zoom or we can meet in person. It's really up to you. So there's help for you here. If you would like to heal from what hurt you, there's help for you here. And it's all available at no cost. I've removed all those barriers so that you can just apply dedication, diligence, and effort, and you can gradually make your way to an improved state of mind. So thank you again for coming. Thank you for everyone online who joined. Perhaps I'll see you guys in a future class. Be well and have a wonderful rest of your day. Sawadee krap. Sawadee krap. Ciao. you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.